Okay, welcome. Thank you all for joining. Yes, this is being recorded, and just if you've registered for the event, we'll make sure to get you the recording. So welcome. My name is Brian Malone. I am um, uh, working with on the customer success team here at Hypothesis. So it is my job to help you all out with getting Hypothesis implemented in your classroom. Today's partner workshop, which is we run this series called Partner Workshops, and these are open to anybody that has a partnership with Hypothesis, and anybody that's interested in possibly starting one. So this specific topic today is on making humanities courses interactive, annotation of primary sources. So, we're going to talk about what social annotation is and why you would use it. We'll demo setting up hypothesis-enabled reading. We're going to apply social annotation specifically to a humanities context and review some sample annotation assignments. Then we'll just explore some teaching annotation strategies, and we'll have some time for Q&A. So the goal here is to have about 30 minutes of content roughly, and roughly 15 minutes of conversation afterward. So thank you again for being here. Uh, and if you don't mind, I am curious if you could put in the chat for me just what school you're with, what discipline you're in, and any experience you have with hypothesis. This could be anything from some, none, lots. We're just curious. I will say, as you're doing that, the presentation today does it assumes some level of familiarity with the tool, but if you are new to Hypothesis, that's not a problem. We will go into what the tool looks like and the basics of annotation. Some of our more advanced features we are not going to necessarily cover today for sake of time. We want to keep it focused on this context of the humanities and how social annotation can help in humanities. But we will give a brief demo of the tool. Um, we uh, we I mentioned that this is slightly more advanced because we do give a workshop called Activating Annotation, which is your introductory workshop. And in that workshop, we're going to go really in depth with some of the features of the tool. So for those of you that are used or who have used this tool before, welcome. And for those of you who are new to the tool, please do look out for an activating session. You're very welcome here today. You'll be able to follow along just fine. But if you're looking for a deeper dive into introductory features, please do look out for that activating annotation session. And we'll go into some of those things there. So I am seeing a mix of people here. We've got history new to the program. Great, welcome. Teaching STEM and CETL teaching other faculty how to use Hypothesis. Great, welcome, Rochelle. Been using Hypothesis for a number of years, looking for new tips and tricks. Great, yeah. So this will kind of focus specifically on a context, which is going to be the humanities and primary sources and JSTOR. We have somebody with no experience. Um, Use the tool briefly, but want to learn more and new. Good. So we've got quite a range here. Again, if you have not used this tool, you'll be able to follow along today just fine. But if you do want a deeper dive, look out for that activating annotation session. So thank you all for putting that in the chat. It gives me a good sense of who's here today. And um, Before I joined Hypothesis, I was a instructional designer for a few years in higher ed, and I started my career as an English teacher. So this topic is pretty close to my own interests because I was teaching English, and I was also teaching actually a range of students. I taught linguistics mostly to education majors, and I taught technical writing mostly to STEM majors, but I also taught first year writing for general education and a couple of other courses that were more focused on English majors. So this this focus on the humanities is one that I'm familiar with, and I wish that I had been at a school that was using this tool because there's some things that I can do that would have really enhanced the sense of community and my own sense of how students were engaging with the tool. So, with that said, let's talk about what it looks like to annotate with Hypothesis. Here at Hypothesis, we say that Hypothesis makes reading active, visible, and social. So, really, when we assign readings to students, we kind of hope that they do them. Maybe we have some discussion in class, but typically, when we discuss the readings with students, the discussion is happening in a place that is separate from the text. And the whole premise of social annotation is that students are annotating right over the text that's been assigned. And importantly, they're doing so in conversation with each other. So this is not only a note-taking strategy and an insight into the literacy process, but it is also a means of building community and making sure that reading is a more active rather than passive activity. So we have done a number of case studies, and we have some case studies on our website. But for example, one case study we did with the University of Texas at Austin, just simply by having hypothesis in the course, um, we saw an increase of 5 times the engagement with the texts being assigned. And so let me show you what this looks like. We do integrate with all of the major LMSs. I'm going to demo in Canvas today, but I'm going to focus on the LMS agnostic features. So if you are interested in how Hypothesis works with the specific LMS at your institution, please do get in touch with us, and we can help you start using this tool and understand how it works with your specific LMS. Everything I'm talking about and showing you today should be pretty much the same across LMSs. So you can just sort of disregard that I'm going to build an assignment in Canvas, because everything you're seeing will work the same way regardless of your LMS. Um, so I want to get into the tool, give you a brief demo of the tool. And as I mentioned, we're looking at about roughly 30 minutes of conversation, or excuse me, content, and roughly 15 minutes of conversation after that. We'll try our best to keep within that time frame, but I am keeping an eye on the chat as I go. I will try to answer questions as they come up in the chat, or at the end of the session, I will pause the recording, and we can kind of open the floor for questions. So thanks again for joining. And I'm going to open up some assignments here. The first thing I want to show you is annotation over a poem, because this will give you an insight of what it looks like when students are annotating a primary source from a URL, and just a little sense of what it looks like when students have conversation through Hypothesis. So we're actually on a website. This assignment was set up using a URL. We typically see PDFs being used. However, we do work with URLs. We work with YouTube videos. We work with JSTOR, which is another thing we'll talk about today. So we have students who are annotating a Mary Oliver poem. And notice throughout this poem, there are some highlights on the page. Those highlights indicate annotations. So if I select those annotations, notice in the hypothesis sidebar on the right-hand side of the page, the annotation that corresponds with the highlight kind of filters down, and we can review the conversations that are happening over that specific annotation. So in this case, we had a student leave an annotation, and the instructor responded to that student. We've got another student annotation here. We've got the instructor responding to students. We've got the instructor prompting students, and the students starting to reply. And the students are able to have conversation with each other and with the instructor through these annotations. I'm able to remove my filter up here and review all of the annotations at once. And so that's really what it looks like. If I want my students to be able to review the source material without noticing the annotations first, I can go ahead and, or I mean, you would tell your students that they can use this eye icon for showing and hiding highlights. So this way, students can interact with the text without those sort of annotation markers. And then when they're ready to re-engage, they can turn those back on. Um, so that's really, really basic level what it looks like to use this tool. And having gone over that, Next, I want to get into assignment setup. And to build an assignment today, typically I build using a PDF, but I'm actually going to build an assignment for you all today using this JSTOR article. Again, we're talking about primary sources. We're talking about the humanities, and we thought building an assignment using something like JSTOR, assuming that your institution has that integration, would be valuable. So let's go ahead and start. And um, I'm gonna close down this poetry assignment. I'm actually going to go in and build a new assignment. So let's get to my assignments tab here. And again, as I mentioned, all of this is LMS agnostic. So I'm going to sort of just click through the Canvas part of assignment building and not really narrate what I'm doing there, except to tell you that all of our LMSs will allow you in some form to give a title and to add instructions for your students. When it comes to point values, typically I don't see hypothesis assignments be worth a lot. The goal with hypothesis assignments is to give students a chance to interact with each other and have an initial response to text. We're not looking for polished essays. We're not looking for a totally clear takeaway yet or a formal analysis. We're just looking for evidence that students have engaged to some capacity with the text and with each other. So typically this is a formative assessment, not worth a high volume or a high number of points. I also see people group all of their assignments into one assignment group, and then the point values kind of are weighted proportionally within that group, but maybe the assignment group is worth 5% of the overall grade of the course or something like that. So just a way to sort of reward participation and engagement. So we don't see a super high point value usually. I'm going to make sure that we hook up with the hypothesis here. Again, this is all Canvas specific stuff. This screen is the first screen we're seeing that is native to hypothesis. Some of the specific integrations, like these all say Canvas pages, Canvas Studio, Canvas file. Depending on your LMS, some of your file picker options will be different. Um, all of our LMSs allow you to build using the files that have been uploaded to your LMS. So you'll see an equivalent of a file picker for each LMS. Um, if your school works with our vital source integration, you'll have that on there. Everybody will be able to use URLs. And again, this is a URL to any live website. So if you are looking at something behind like a paywall, like a New York Times or something that may require students to go past a paywall, you'll run into some issues here. But any live publicly available website is something we can work with. And we automatically create groups that are private to your course space. So if your students go off to a website somewhere and leave annotations, nobody outside of the course space will ever see those annotations or know that they are there. Um, as I mentioned, we work with YouTube, specifically the transcripts of videos. So if your YouTube video has an accurate transcript, we'll be able to do an annotation activity over the transcript of that video. And today I want to focus on JSTOR. So all we're doing on this screen is telling Hypothesis where to pull our file from. I'm going to use a JSTOR article. And it's important to note that with JSTOR, we use the stable link. So I'm going to go ahead and copy the stable link from my JSTOR article. I'm going to paste that in to build my assignment. And once it's here, I'm going to accept and continue. I'm not going to go too far into these options today, but you will have the option to make this part of our use the auto grading feature for this or turn this into a group assignment. I'll speak to these very briefly. I'm not going to actually set them up for this assignment because with my humanities professors, I find a pretty even split on whether they're interested in using auto grading or not. Auto grading specifically refers to automatically counting the total number of annotations and replies that students leave and giving a grade according to simple division. So if you tell the students you want them to leave 3 annotations and 2 replies, we're going to divide the total number of annotations and replies by the amount that you've asked them for, and we're going to award a grade accordingly. So if you say I want 5 annotations and replies total, and I give you four, we're going to do 4 divided by 5, 80%. We also do not automatically send that grade back to your grade book. We let you go through and look at the quality. So if you're like, Brian left 4 out of 5, but I know his annotations are usually pretty thorough and thoughtful, and you don't have to use the 80% that we automatically assigned. You can go ahead and manually enter a grade for me just like you normally would, and I will never know that the tool suggested a grade for me in the first place. Like I said, I have a split on humanities instructors that are interested in this or not. If you are interested in this, feel free to get in touch with us. We can go into a deeper demo of what using the auto grader looks like, but I will skip it for now. Group assignments are also very easy to use with Hypothesis. Basically, in all of our LMSs, if you set up a group prior to building your Hypothesis assignment, we will recognize the groups that exist in your course, and you can turn your Hypothesis readings into group assignments. Um, Alex is asking if we support or plan to support other databases besides JSTOR. I would send you to our product team to ask that question. I'm going to give you an email address in our slides, and that's a good sort of initial go-to email address, and we can get you a better answer to that question. My colleagues on the product team would be able to tell you what is on the sort of horizon for other future integrations. So that's a good question. But for now, all we've done is told the tool that we're going to build an assignment using a JSTOR stable link. We've told the tool whether we want auto grading or group assignment. I'm going to hit continue here. And we're back to Canvas stuff, so I'm going to ignore all of that for now. Oh, I have to give it a title. Okay, so we have our assignment. I'm going to load this in a new tab. We have taken our JSTOR article. We've grabbed the stable link and built a hypothesis assignment. Now we have our JSTOR article, which is loading here, and we have our hypothesis overlay along the side. So now we're ready to start leaving annotations on this document. I wanted to use this particular article because it has a mix of text and image. Let me show you what this looks like. To leave an annotation, I'm going to select the bit of text that I'd like to annotate. I'll have two options, annotate or highlight. Highlight is completely private to me. Um, your students won't see your highlights, you won't see their highlights, completely private. It's just a way of indicating something of interest, but maybe not something that you want to discuss with your classmates. So I'll go ahead and leave an annotation on this, which can be made private, but are public by default. So I'll have a basic text editor here. Um, and let's see. I can just leave a comment on this. I have the ability to do some basic text editing, so I can bold or italicize. I can add a quote in. I can add links in. I can add images in. This crowd probably is not using equations, but if for some reason you are, we have LaTeX language, so we support an equation editor, basic bullet points, numbering. We also have the ability to @mention. So if I type the @ symbol, anybody who is active in this assignment, I will be able to tag. This is a good way for students to tag each other, to ask questions to you, or for you to bring in students into the conversation that might have otherwise missed the conversation. So the @mentions is a handy feature as well. I'm going to go ahead and post this. Sometimes our coding here is needs a bit of doctoring. Let's try this. There it is. So now we have our italicized text. Our demo instructor is tagged. To come in and leave a reply to this, you would just need to go and find this little reply arrow in the bottom right. You'll get the same exact text editor. The next thing I wanted to show you was our image here. What did we? Whoops. Okay. Oh, this is cut off. I'm gonna explore that later on. But anyway, we have an image here, and let's see if we can. Hmm. I have to explore why this is cut off. I wonder if it's a JSTOR formatting thing. Um, Never seen that happen. But anyway, if you want your students to annotate over images, you can do that as well. That's a relatively new feature of ours, and there's a couple of ways to do this. I feel like this is of particular interest to those of you teaching history or art or any other aspect of the humanities where you might be including images, graphs, data visualizations, anything like that. Your students have two options. They can drop a pin somewhere over the annotation. So let's say I really wanted to address the flag back here. I can drop a pin, and the area immediately surrounding my pin will become my annotation. We have the ability to leave a thumbnail description in here for accessibility reasons. If you want to work on just alt text or teaching your students how to write good image descriptions, you can do that in here. Uh, and otherwise, your annotation box looks exactly the same. So that's option one is a pin drop. And again, just to go over there, I selected from my hypothesis sidebar the pin annotation option. My other option is a rectangle select. Now this is going to give me a specific portion of the image. So let's say I wanted to discuss the smoke billowing out of the smokestacks up here. I'm actually going to be able to do a rectangle select and draw a rectangle over that portion of the image. And now the portion I selected will become my annotation instead. So those are basic feature overviews. That's how you leave an annotation, how you work with the image, the image annotations, text-based annotations. We went over building an assignment as well. Um, So that's kind of what I planned to demo on the basic features of the tool. For more in-depth information about things like the groups or the auto grading or otherwise manually grading or any specific questions about about the LMS and our integration with your school's specific LMS, please do feel free to get in touch with us. I'm going to actually, I'll just go ahead and give you that email address right now in case it's of interest to you. Um, We have the email address success@hypothesis. Note the dot between S and IS at the end of hypothesis. If you email that address, we can handle any of your questions in greater depth. We'll get back in touch with you. And while I'm at it, I'm going to go ahead and share the slides for today's workshop with you in the chat as well. Okay, so that's a link to today's slides. You are welcome to follow along. And yeah, you should be able to view these slides um, if you're interested in following along with me. Okay, so next up, let's get down to, let's transition back to using this tool to teach within the humanities. Before I do that, we do have some links for you, tips on annotating for students, an illustrated guide to annotation types, adding images, videos, and links into your annotations, examples of classroom use. So if you want some greater, some resources that go into greater depth on some of the things I talked about, do feel free to follow up with these teaching and learning resources. And focusing us back again on the hypothesis in the humanities. Um, we just kind of thought like what types of skills are we hoping that students would acquire through humanities courses and how can social annotation support those skills? So this is not a comprehensive list by any means, but when it comes to humanities courses, we want students to be able to identify important information. That's one of the skills we identified. So using social annotation, students might be able to identify key vocabulary terms and define them in their own words. You might prompt students to identify central ideas, claims, questions, and evidence presented. You might have students locate important information that's needed to answer questions. So these are examples of some kinds of prompts you might use within humanities courses to support that skill of identifying important information. Another skill was to contextualize and clarify content. So you can always invite students to ask and answer questions of their own or answer your questions that you prompt them with. You can have students translate complex ideas into their own words. Um, you can prompt students to provide missing context for interpreting the piece. So it's like that image we were looking at earlier, maybe prompting students to provide the historical context that would help a non-expert better understand what we were noticing in that image. You can prompt students to link to outside resources as well. So because it's more than just a text editor and we have the ability to include images or include links, you can have students bring in other content that's relevant to the source that you're annotating. And that's a good way to evaluate how well students can clarify complex content or contextualize the content. Another skill we might look for is the ability to critically think about the content. So you might prompt students to do things like identifying patterns or relationships and explaining how or why they are important. You might prompt students to add new examples to add on to the example we we're already looking at. Might prompt students to connect a passage or idea to something they have previously learned. Ask students what they agree or disagree with within the text, and to discuss the implications of the text. So, especially if you're looking at a primary source, what were the implications of how that source was um, responded to within wider society or something like that. And when it comes to your own classroom, we have a variety of assignments that we have suggested and built for you. I'm actually going to go ahead, I'm going to follow one of these. All of these, many of these slides have links in the upper right to pre-written assignment prompts. So I'm just going to go through a few different possible assignments you can give to your students. You are welcome actually for the assignments that we've pre-written, you are welcome to copy and paste those and add them in and modify them to your own context. You don't need to credit us or anything. If you're building your first hypothesis assignments and you're wondering just like, is there a starting point for me? Go ahead and download these. I'm going to show you an example of one of these in a second, but some of our really popular assignment prompt ideas include annotating the syllabus. So this would be before students even get into content for the course. Um, Oh, thank you. I see a question just came in for later on, so I will come back to that. If I forget to answer that question, do remind me and I'll come back to that, okay? Um, so for if you want to teach students how to use this tool before they actually get into the heavier content of the course, you can always do this by having them annotate the syllabus in the onset of the course. This is a really good way for you to set expectations for the course, evaluate whether students are engaging with your syllabus. Students can ask questions and practice annotating. This is a really good way to set up like a sense of care in the course from the beginning, demonstrate to students that to some degree this is democratic. We're talking about the content that we learn. We're talking about course policies. We're talking about how available is my instructor for questions and answers or clarification. It's a really good way to get students practicing using the tool, but also engaging with your content in the course. Um, Annotating a scholarly article, which is sort of an example of what we were doing with our JSTOR. Uh, so guiding students through the reading by modeling annotations and asking your own questions and providing clarification. So you actively participating with the assignment as well is a really good way to model to students what meaningful annotations look like in the context of your course. And then annotating an analysis of a primary source. This is a really good example. So one thing with English professors that has come up before is, let's say you're annotating literature, and you can't actually put the entire piece of literature into an annotation assignment. Copyright reasons, it's too large, it's not available, it's only in print, et cetera, et cetera. Um, if you can't actually get the source that you want to annotate, you can always find critical commentary about that primary source. So you can find book reviews or or critical articles or scholarly engagement with the primary source of some sort and use that actually as your annotation activity so you can immediately put students into conversation with other experts that have been looking at the source. Um, so you're anchoring conversation within the source, even when that source itself is unavailable to you. We have, as I mentioned, a variety of sample starter assignments. I want to show you some of those. Let's see what this one looks like. So I'm going to follow this link for annotating a scholarly article. You'll find a prompt, um, and the prompt will include instructions, a purpose statement, um, sorry, I did that backwards. Purpose statement and instructions for the students. Um, it will tell the students what meaningful annotations might look like. So your annotations could do things like summarize, answer specific questions. And we also have advice on how to reply meaningfully with other classmates. And then we have some tech support. Um, options too. So just a quick note for students who are using the tool for the first time and encounter any common issues, a little bit of tech support or how to get support if they run into issues is always a good thing. I like to recommend adding in an evaluation statement to these as well. So just like how are students getting evaluated on their assignments, whether that's a rubric or some other way that you're evaluating students with using hypothesis. So, again, those are available for you. You're welcome to copy and paste those, add those into your own context. And that actually brings me, I think, oh, to student annotation strategies. I'm going to go through these pretty quickly here. This is how to encourage students to ask good questions when using the text. We were thinking like, what would it look like for a student to meaningfully use hypothesis in a humanities context? One of those is asking open-ended questions and teaching students how to ask open-ended questions. There's three levels here for good question asking. I don't want to imply that any of these are better or worse. Think of them as three separate categories. Level 1 questions are text-based and reference the text directly. Level 2 questions are speculations on the social and cultural considerations surrounding a text or issue. And level 3 questions are making personal connections to the text. So inviting students to ask good questions based on any of these levels of types of questions they can ask are really good ways to stimulate conversation. So if I'm your student, I'm asking a question about social implications of the source we're looking at. I'm inviting my classmates to respond, hopefully much more meaningfully. And this is good because, you know, a student could open up the assignment and not know exactly how to begin engaging. And what we want to avoid is the types of um, prompts or posts you might get in a traditional discussion board, right? We're trying to make these much more organic and lively. And so prompting students throughout the text to ask questions in these ways are inviting better conversation than you would hopefully receive otherwise. You can also guide students to make direct connections to the text. So we've gone from answering questions to actually leaving their own annotations. They can do text to self connections, text to other texts, texts to events going on in the world, present or past, and text to media. So this would be a connection between the text and something else they have seen in popular culture, whether on TV or read online or heard in a song, etc. Um, and lastly, I'm going to talk about exit annotations. This is a really good way if you, especially for large enrollment classes, if you just want one place to review, like how well are students reading this text? What are they walking away with? Are there any trends in common questions I'm getting? Are students walking away with what I hope they were walking away with? You can always plant an exit annotation. So what this would look like is you leaving an annotation of your own at the end of the text and inviting students to do one of the following. So summarize the reading in one sentence. Something I still don't understand about the reading is X. State the most important fact or idea from the reading and explain why you chose it. And describe something from the reading you'd like to learn more about and why. Again, any of these prompts would invite students to give you some sort of feedback. And hopefully you could open up the assignment and see all of the students' responses to this exit annotation and just have a better sense of like, are there any trends? Are students all over the place in their questions? Was there something in particular that was really confusing? I will say this, just a very brief note about AI, and we do have a whole workshop on social annotation in the age of AI. But one thing AI is better at is a prompt like this, summarize the reading in one sentence. One thing that AI is less good at are reflective questions. So one of the purposes of an exit annotation is also to get students to do their own reflection and report their own reflection back to you. So identifying a most important fact and why they chose it, or describe something they'd want to learn more about, or all of these things are slightly more reflective in nature than they are, you know, specific summaries of the text. So those are good things to bear in mind when you're prompting students as well, as like prompting them to do reflection rather than, you know, spitting back kind of content, because AI tends to be a little bit better at that. Although I've been doing some of my own experiments with that, and it's not always great at understanding basic content either. Um, so that brings us to the end of our content for today. I will pause the recording in a moment here and open the floor for questions. I know there's one in the chat that I can start with. Um, if you are a partner of Hypothesis, that is to say you're out of school that already has an agreement in place with Hypothesis, we offer one-on-one instructional design consultations. We also offer custom training and instructional design webinars. So much like this one, except we can do it tailored to a specific audience or within your specific school. So just go ahead and get in touch with us. We're happy to help you. We have support at Hypothesis as the means of technical support if you run into issues using the tool. Um, they are very, very quick to respond. And let's see. Um, as I mentioned, we have a variety of assignments available for you on our website. Those are things we've written and pre-drafted, but we also accept submissions from faculty members who have successfully used Hypothesis um, in their classes. So if you are somebody who has used Hypothesis in the past and enjoyed it, and you have examples of successful assignments, we are looking to update and refresh some of our instructor submitted assignments. So if you'd like to see your assignment featured on our site or perhaps promoted somehow, go ahead and email success@hypothesis. We'd love to hear from you and learn more about how you're using this tool in your specific discipline. So again, we have a link here to Success at Hypothesis. I've also added a link to our workshop scheduler. So if you are at a school that would like to schedule a school-specific training, go ahead and feel free to follow up there. We can accommodate workshops for you too.